So, first and foremost, I want to introduce myself. I'm Nick.
I'm
here with
Tunav.
And we met about a week and a half ago. And we basically had a really good conversation over dinner one night. And I brought him in to interview and basically get a makeshift conversation of what happened that night on tape, because it was a really amazing, conversation that we had, and you have an amazing story, and I just want to be able to document that and then give it to our fan base and following, right? So
Definitely.
First and foremost, I just want you to introduce yourself, what you do, where you're from, and talk a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Tunav Nanda. I'm 24 years old. I'm based out of New York. I have an Indian background, Indian heritage. I'm actually a fashion designer. I worked with Adidas Originals, and I've been through lots of life experiences, which really brought me and Nick together here. So
yeah, and that first kind of life experience that I want to get into, and it's kind of going from 0 to 100. But when we spoke before, you mentioned that you came down with leukemia when you were 17 years old, and we never really got into that whole thing the other night, but I would love to hear the story from your point of view, just how it was getting the news first and foremost, your recovery, and just the support that you were able to get from your family and friends.
Yeah, for sure. So I was diagnosed at 17. I actually just had graduated high school when I found out what I was dealing with. But before that, just backtracking a little bit, I was actually doing track and field.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was throwing shot put. And I was doing it for about 2 out of the 4 years of high school, 2 out of the 3 years of high school, and then senior year came. And I realized, hey, this is my last shot at being able to, compete in an extracurricular activity. Like, I'm a very sentimental guy. I hold these small sentiments close to me, and I wanted to do track one more time, Even though I wasn't really too good at it, I just cared. I wanted to not be home. I wanted to be at school doing something. So I went back and I started throwing some more shot put, and then I started realizing this excruciating pain I had in my hip. And I just couldn't really understand why it was happening. I was going to the trainer before and after practice to figure out what it really was. And we thought it was shin splints. We thought it was because I was wearing the wrong shoes. And it was just so bad at one point that I really had to stop and just hang out. I was walking on a limp, and yeah, we just ended up going to the doctors and doing some blood tests. Within a few weeks, they told me that I was anemic, so my blood supply was low, and I would have to go in there and start getting B12 shots bi-weekly. And everything else was fine for the most part. They said that was really what I was lacking. And, there was more blood tests done that weren't reported as yet, so we had gotten to the point where I graduated high school, and right as I graduated, I went on my senior trip, which was about a week long.
Yep.
And the day I got back from my senior trip, I was at work, and I worked at the same place my mom worked at. So it was about 6 p.m., and then she had gotten a call from the local pediatrician saying that they had found some leukemia traces in my blood. So right then and there, I didn't even get the chance to go home or anything. I immediately had to go to the hospital and drop everything I was doing and just go get tested to see what was really wrong with me. And within a couple days of testing, we actually found out that I really did have leukemia. And it was heartbreaking. It was very sad, it was so unexpected, especially because, I'm just a high schooler. I'm around all these other kids. I've lived my life normally to this whole point, and out of nowhere, just this massive change.
That's the thing, and a lot of kids, they have blinders on, right? They don't know that these things are like real life. Like
exactly.
if you have never, had to deal with cancer in your life before, it's a completely unknown circumstance to you, and you really don't know the full grasp of what's actually going on.
Right, exactly. You have no idea what you're even putting in your body. You don't know what's good for you, what's bad for you, what you're really even doing. You're just being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel like what we're really trying to raise awareness about here. But backtracking to the story itself, after I realized that I was going through this disease and just going through what now would be chemotherapy, to, you know, delete these cancer cells out of my body, I would be facing lots and lots of side effects, losing my hair, lots of mouth pains and nauseas and all sorts of problems. So my biggest way of battling that besides chemo was positivity. So me being positive, having a positive mindset, and not really realizing or not really accepting that leukemia was there was like one of the biggest tools. I realized that that would be able to make me feel better. That would be able to make my family feel better, as well as my friends.
Yeah.
Like whoever was there supporting me knew that I had a good head on my shoulders, even though my head was bald. Like they knew that I was a fighter, and within 1 month of treatment, I was in remission.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
yeah, remission right away. And you know, there was a lot of other patients there. I was roomed with. They roomed patients by like age.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with another 17-year-old kid, and he actually had gone through another protocol in Turkey, not at the same hospital, but he had been misdiagnosed.
Oh, wow.
So we had the same disease, and he was way further in a hole than I was, and he was the reason I became so positive. He was like forced that energy into me, and unfortunately he's not here with us today, but he really integrated that into my body, so I'm like living a part of me for him now too.
Wow,
so.
that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to get wrapped up in life and take every single negative thing that happens to you as like the world is like falling on your shoulders or whatnot, and all it takes is a simple mindset switch to being able to change your outlook on everything, you know, regardless of whether it's good or regardless of whether it's bad. Always having that positive outlook can change everything.
Absolutely.
You know, quitting with the pessimistic viewpoints and just adding that glass is half full type of mentality over a glass is half empty one is probably been the number one reason why I've been able to succeed growing up with my childhood. Obviously, I dealt with something very different than contracting leukemia, but you know, I had a very stressful life. My hair is falling out now because of it, and my upbringing, right? So this is just the way that I learned myself how to cope with it as well. It's just being positive and not letting the negative things weigh on you too much, and being able to let stuff roll off your shoulder, right?
Right, definitely. And just believing that you'll be all right, and believing in the best possible situations.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really important with that is the fact that you have to surround yourself with like-minded people that are like you, right?
Absolutely.
Surrounding yourself with positivity and togetherness and stuff like that is so important. Your grouping is amazing. So I want to briefly ask you, just how was, you know, the family reaction, your friends' reaction? Was it all positivity? Was it all like that?
It was something that we've never experienced before. Not even me. Like, it was something that none of us could say we've seen happen to anybody. Besides, like, elders, pretty much. And those are things that we'd be able to cope with a little better because of their age, and we were there for each other. But for this to happen to, you know, a 17-year-old kid was kind of really alarming. It was very awakening, and you know, I felt like I was blessed a little bit to be able to be the one that had to deal with it, you know, because I was always so strong-minded that I was like, I could take this like a piece of cake, and I could just, it's nothing to me, and like I could really go through this. This is something that I'm capable of handling. Wow. And I made everyone in my family feel like that. And one of the most powerful things I felt like I was doing was I was just creating a unity from sitting in my hospital bed. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just uniting all these people that haven't spoken in so long and met with each other in so long, or just brought so many people together as like a big flower blooming to just like, you know, make this person feel like, yo, they're here.
Yeah, you're not alone, right?
Yeah, I was not alone whatsoever. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to fight that battle and win, I mean, you've beaten leukemia. Like, what else is there that can take? Like, there's nothing that you can't beat now, right? That's the kind of the mindset that you have towards that, right? That you've already gone through this huge battle and succeeded. Like, the world is for the taking when it comes to your mindset, right?
Absolutely. And that's one thing I really just want to keep pushing. Like, I shouldn't be the only one to have this kind of mindset. I want to be able to give this to anybody who's dealing with this kind of disease, or any disease for that matter. I want to be able to prove to them that positivity is one of the stronger forms of medicine that you can have, and having a bright mind and having the right people around you saying the right things and just making yourself happy, doing things that make you happy is so important. Less stress and just more smiles, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
And you'll get through it. Unfortunately, in some cases, you won't. But for the time being, you really just have to be able to just keep that good head on your shoulders and hope for the best, you know?
Exactly. And
So-
I think that's a good kind of segue point to, moving on to the next topic, which actually is about the conversation that we had about a whole food plant-based diet
Right.
and the different types of diseases that you're actually able to not only prevent but cure. Whether it's heart disease or diabetes and all these different things, a whole food plant-based diet has the ability to reverse these kinds of things. And as I mentioned to you the other night, it has the ability to reduce your risk of getting cancer by 400 to 500%. And I think that is where the light kind of flicked in your head, where you're like, holy crap, like this is something that I should really take a look into. And I want to ask you is, what are, the reasons why you really took that conversation that we had to heart so much? Is it just the leukemia, or were there other things that compiled on top?
There's definitely a few other things that are compiled on top, I would say, but one of them being that even though I was in remission for just 1 month, I was in remission after 1 month. I still continued to do chemotherapy for 2 years. So that was a lot more medicine in my body that could have been, taken, but, I wanted to be able to use that as a form to show other patients that, this could possibly be a way that you could change your life.
Mm-hmm.
I also, in terms of my fashion sense, I want to be able to do these things. I want to be able to talk to other patients and give them storytelling ideas that allow them to feel better, and take their stories and integrate them into products. So that kind of all makes sense right then and there, like,
Yeah.
having...
Absolutely. Another thing that we talked about was the fact that, with the new knowledge that you have about a plant-based diet and how you're going to eventually feel, I mean, it's only been a few days now, or
Right. I'd
or
say
maybe
about a week.
maybe a week that
Yeah.
you've been on the whole food plant-based diet. But one thing that we talked about was the fact that you want to, after a few years' time, go back to these hospitals and be able to give back to the kids that are actually going through the same thing that you did, and be able to provide their families with hope through a diet, right?
Exactly, yeah, totally.
So do you want to just speak on that briefly?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if this is something that really... I've never experienced a vegan or plant-based diet before, but one thing I've heard a lot of great things about it. From the birds chirping, I would hear, do you still eat meat? Like, after I would tell my story, do you still do this? Do you still do that? And, like, one of the more things that resonate with me was, like, do you still eat meat?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I do. But after, the conversation we had, I realized that here I am in Bali and Canggu, like, making life changes and life decisions that could really shape my life a lot more differently than I used to be. And I figured that this could definitely work. And I really do think it's working. I really feel a lot better. I feel a lot more, even though it's only been a week, I feel way more focused, feel lighter, just feel more grounded. And I would love to be able to offer that to patients and their families, and just give them that as a tool to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
Food is like one of the things that we love the most as humans. It's like...
Of course.
But there's other ways around it, to make yourself feel better and make yourself feel like way more cleansed and straying away from these possible diseases. It's like so much more worth it. Like you said, that 5-minute mouthgasm.
Yeah, right.
It's not worth it. Like, that 5-minute mouthgasm is not worth contracting a disease, or like what could possibly put you in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
I feel like it could really benefit, the plant-based diet. So.
100%. With especially red meat being the number one culprit, being a carcinogen, and with heme iron and the actual proteins changing your microbiome and stuff like that. I mean, it is because of the animal-based proteins that they are able to actually grow cancer cells inside the body, right? So when you eliminate the proteins that you get from these animal-based products, you eliminate your ability to, or greatly reduce your ability to actually have the growth of cancer cells, you know, happening in your body, right? And I think that is hugely important, not only just for the population in general, but for you specifically. And I'm really glad that that was able to really sink in and grab a hold of you, where it's like, okay, this is like something that I can really get behind, right?
Right.
And the other thing that you really kind of got behind was, I have videos on my phone of live videos of a slaughterhouse here in Bali. And a lot of the time, people ask me, oh, you know, Balinese people, everything is homegrown, their cows are grass-fed, you know, they're treated really well because, you know, they need them to survive. And as much as that is true, there is the other side of things, where we had a video just, you know, we went on a walk the other day around a rice terrace, and there's cows that are literally, they're crying. You can see the tears streaming down their face. They're terrified. They're chained up with chains around their necks and their horns, and they can't move. They're standing in their own feces. So this is a stressful situation for these animals. And then obviously showing you the video,
Right.
you know, that hit you in a way that you were not expecting as well. So, you know, how did watching those images change your mindset as well when it came to the way that you perceived animal products?
Right. So, you know, before this, I never really perceived it. I just ate it, you know? So it was like something I really didn't pay any attention to. But then when I started really taking things into account here in Bali, you just really clear your mind and you start to like really accept. And I was really accepting the fact that, you know, the animals that we're eating, like you just mentioned, they're crying or they're, you know, chained up. That's stress that's pouring right into their body. Like that's the meat that you're eating. So it's definitely going right into you, and it's wearing off into you. So it's like I kind of put that two and two together and realized maybe that could be a possible reason why stress is like, you know, a thing, or like it just all makes sense, you know? Yeah. Another thing is that I just rescued a dog back home. Wow. His name's Buddy. He's a half golden retriever, half Labrador retriever. And he is one of my best friends. Well, he is my best friend.
Yeah, he is your best friend.
He is my best friend. I miss him more than anyone back home. Sorry, Mom.
I don't think they'll totally forgive you for that. That is a common human interaction with their animal.
Yeah,
sure.
Totally. No, he's always there. He's the one that's there when nobody else is. So, for me, I kind of put him as that cow, you know, and I put him in that place, and I realized, you know, what if we were cutting Buddy open and eating him and watching him bleed out, and he has a heart and he has a brain, and those cows have a heart and they have brains, and so do the chickens and pigs and all these other animals that we eat in the world, and that's not fair, and that's just not right.
100%.
So it just really hit me. It really resonated with me, and you know, I figured right then and there that would probably be the last time that I eat meat.
Exactly, and we're all sentient beings. We all have emotions. We all have feelings. We all have organs and stuff like that work. Like, we have the same organs as a pig, right? The digestive system and the way that our bodies work are different, but they feel pain. They feel, you know, terrified. They're scared. And when you take their young away from them, like a cow, when you take they cry for days on end,
right,
for their young.
Right.
But they don't know that if it was born a male, it's already dead for the most part, right?
Right.
So it's a terrible industry, and it pains me even when I think about it now that it took me 27 and a half years to figure it out, to finally like have my eyes open and have the curtains peeled back.
Definitely.
I agree. And I wish it would have happened sooner, but you know, these industries do a really good job of covering their tracks, and they don't want these kinds of things to get out because, you know, the food industry is a $1.3 billion or trillion dollar industry.
Right.
Right? And so they have their ways of manipulating what goes on and whatnot. But
of course.
Switching subjects quickly, we're gonna go straight into the whole food plant-based kind of stuff, and I want to ask you, before you decided to make the change, did you know much about the actual diet itself, or was it kind of just hearsay from other people? You never really did much research, but you were curious about it. How did it come about where it kind of got onto your radar?
I was just always curious. I was always into making these life changes. I feel like my life consists of it. So, I wanted to experience the whole plant-based lifestyle. I also wanted to just try something new. I wanted to experience like a different type of feel, and I felt like that would be with plants for sure. I really didn't have any idea what the diet would consist of.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that I have an Indian heritage, Indian background, so back home we're eating lots of vegan foods already that I didn't even realize,
Exactly.
So it's like, it kind of works out for me. We have lots of lentils and like okra and like all these different types of chickpeas and beans that we eat. So I know that I'll be eating a lot more of that, especially when I go back home to New York in about a few days. Especially being here in Canggu, there's lots of vegan options.
100%.
So I figured, why not? Why not take advantage of this opportunity with it being so accessible and just using it. Instead of just giving me that mouthgasm, I wanted to be able to try vegan and maybe find that mouthgasm in one of those restaurants
100%.
or one of those things.
A lot of people don't realize, they think, oh, you're vegan, so you just eat salads all day. Like,
Right.
No, you've been eating, like, whether or not you're omnivorous or whatever, you've been eating vegan dishes your entire life. Like,
Right.
a lot of spaghetti dishes are vegan, salads, all these different things are vegan, but now it's widespread and it covers so many different food groups now that whatever it is, you can find things that are really well put together that give you an even better taste than any of these animal products would, right?
Right.
When you think about it, I mean, the animal products, the steaks, the bacon, whatever it is, a lot of it is, like for bacon, it's the fat that you're consuming that makes it taste so good, right?
Right.
For like steaks, it's the herbs and the spices and stuff that they put on top. All you have to do is take the meat out of the equation and use the same herbs and spices with a meat alternative, like tofu or tempeh or whatever, and you're basically getting the exact same taste.
Right, yeah.
And it's
Totally.
it really is kind of as simple as that, right?
I just tried tempeh today for like the first time and it was delicious.
Right?
And I was like, whoa, where's this been like my whole life? Like, tofu, I'm still getting used to it, but I know that there's a lot of different ways that you can prepare it. And then once you start really introducing this in your life, then you start really finding out what you really like to eat, what recipes that you're really in love with, and how you could use those recipes like in other products or like other vegetables, or and just find different alternatives. Like, it's
100%.
well worth it.
100%. Just the consciousness of not having to have an animal killed to have your 5-minute mouthgasm
Right.
is enough of a conscious, breaker
And I'd say
to do it.
I'd say the challenge itself is something that a lot of people will think is very difficult, but for me, it's like, yeah, like I could do this. Like, it's like a willpower to me. It's like something that I take pride in, even though it's only been 1 week. Like, it's something that I'm taking pride in doing in front of my friends or like my family. Like, I want to be able to show everyone back home that, like, hey, like, you don't really need this or you don't need that, and I could expose them the truth and really show them that there's alternatives for this.
Yeah, that leads me into 2 questions. We're going to go with the first one first, and you kind of already touched on it, but, what do you think, because a lot of people say, oh, it's really hard for me to eat vegan where I am. Like, you're going to go back to New York, and there's lots of pizza, and there's lots of steaks, and there's lots of different things, but what do you say to the people who say that it is too difficult to live that kind of lifestyle, knowing that you've just realized that your entire life you've been eating a lot of vegan dishes and you haven't even known, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you say to those people that say, oh, it's too difficult for me to do it because I don't know what this is or what that is?
Right. I just think they're really too scared to take the challenge, or like just haven't really even thought about it. They're just so quick to jump and say that, hey, like, that's not possible, and not even take it into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something that you could at least think about, or like, be mindful about that. Hey, like, what do I eat? What does my diet even consist of? What can I replace meat with in this meal or this meal or that meal? It's just, no, it's either that diet's too expensive, or, it's not accessible enough, or it's not as tasty enough, but they haven't even given it a shot.
Yeah.
It's like, if you really have the willpower, if you really have the strength, then just give it a shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. And that also leads me into the next question is, what do you think, your personal preference, what do you think is the best way to actually spread awareness to people? Do you think it's through online, or do you think it's just telling people what they need to do, or do you think it's face-to-face? Is it educating them? What do you think is the best route to take?
Well, I gotta be honest, before I met Nick, I would run away from these types of videos and these types of stories online, because it was something that I didn't really want to see. It was something that I was scared to see, or scared to just, watch, but at the end of the day, it's real, it's true, and it's happening everywhere. So, I'm awakened, and I really think that a face-to-face interaction was really worked for me. But in a widespread sort of way, I feel like just really just continue to expose, and just continue to tell the truth about what's really happening out there. And, I know it's been going on for so long, but we really just need to figure out ways and how we could show these people that that's something that I would have to even think about,
Yeah.
It's something that we really just need to wake up to.
Yeah. And it's not just...
I feel like influencers could definitely be something that...
there's more and more influencers jumping on board, that they're taking these things really seriously, because whether or not it's their job, like they get paid to travel the world and make YouTube videos or whatever it is, they travel to these places around the world, and it doesn't look the way that it's supposed to because of the environmental destruction that's gone on, right?
Right.
And, if we continue the way that things are going, the environment is not going to be habitable for a generation or 2 generations to come, right? Bali is not going to look the same if we continue the way that we're going. It's not going to be as green. It's going to be a lot more brown and gray going on, because the vegetation is just going to die out.
Right.
And it's not just exposing people to what happens behind the doors of a slaughterhouse. It's also peeling back the curtains on what happens to the environment as well.
Right.
Because the environmental destruction is the number one leader in extinction rates, in greenhouse gas emissions, in climate change, in so many different things. And like you said, I mean, peeling back the curtains and actually opening up people's eyes to what's actually going on is the biggest way, and it's very impactful, right? But it's getting people to actually, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink a lot of the time, right? So
right.
It's about setting up those things in an environment where people are willing to watch it, right? You can't just kind of jam that down somebody's throat and say, watch it, because, like you said, it's not something that a lot of people like to actually witness, right? And if you guys are interested in watching these kinds of videos, head to YouTube. You can watch Dominion, which is what changed me. That changed my life forever on March 29th. And that is based in Australia, and it shows you behind the scenes of slaughterhouses and the actual livestock. And another one is Forks Over Knives, which is something that we've watched recently, which shows you a lot of the environmental destruction and different things like that go on. So my last question for you is, after being on a plant-based diet now for a week and just having the mental clarity and the determination and the motivation to do this, would you recommend a whole food plant-based diet to anybody that you kind of come across in conversation with? Definitely,
yeah. I mean, going back to New York, I'm going to be around a lot of people that I've known my whole life and are continuing to be on the diet they're on. They're about the gains or whatever. It's something that you really should take into consideration. I have a lot of pet owners back home, and for me, that's what really hit me the most. Just thinking about my buddy and thinking about my dog, and how he could be that product. You know, and in some countries, he is that product.
100%.
So it's like it's so awakening. It like destroys me thinking about it. So I really want to be able to show those type of people that, hey, like, this is really what's going on. You have never really opened your eyes to it. All you really care about is the taste. Maybe you should try to find that taste somewhere else. I feel like the world is consistently evolving,
100%.
and we are creating new foods and new recipes. And I know that you mentioned that Beyond Burger is just as delicious as a regular burger. Why not go with those? You know,
in a lot of cases, in the randomized trials that they've done with people, they give people a regular beef burger, they give people a regular Impossible Burger or a regular Beyond Burger, and more times than not, it's either the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger patty that people choose to eat. And I mean, what you're able to produce now in a lab is tasting better than what you're consuming from these animals. So
absolutely.
why does the animal have to die in the process for you to get the taste that you so desire, right? That is really something that I think motivates you more than anything. And you know, for somebody who owns a pet, I mean, this is your pet. Imagine if your dog or your cat, and you know, some people own pigs. People love pigs. They have them
totally.
as pets. They have chickens as pets. Imagine taking that animal and throwing it on a hook and slashing its neck and watching it bleed out.
Yeah, it's so disgusting.
Yeah,
it's
right?
so sad, and like you hear them squealing, and it's like I really just want to be able to tell everyone, then why can't you do that yourself?
Yeah.
Like, do you have the guts to go and do that? Probably not.
Yeah.
Most probably not. So why do you want other people to do it for you? You know?
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
If you told everybody in the world that in order for you to eat your next hamburger, you had to go and slit the throat of the cow that you were getting it from, 95% of people would not be able to do it.
Absolutely.
I swear. I'm
there with you on that. Yeah.
So it's been fantastic talking to you, and I'm so glad to actually hear your story and be able to not only take it and use it for myself, but take it and use it for our following and our community to be able to help educate them more on not only, like, this isn't like a video where we're saying you have to do this, or, you know, this is what needs to be done. This is God, like, this is human interaction, human emotion, and it's true. It's 100% authentic, and this is just the reason why we have decided to do this. And we think that you guys should just take the opportunity for yourself, see how it goes, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's the way that it goes. But don't give up without giving it a shot.
Exactly.
Like, you have no idea what is possible. You have no idea how good you can possibly feel if you just give it a shot. Give it a chance.
Of course.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming.
For having me. Thank you for educating me.
Absolutely.
This is one probably going to be the greatest life change of my life.
Yeah, and from now on,
Lifestyle.
I mean, regardless of whether or not you're in New York, or if I'm in Canada or in Germany or Australia, whenever you have a question or whenever you need some guidance or education, hit me up.
I know I'm going to be hitting you up with some recipes.
There
man.
you go. There you go. All right. So my name is Nick.
I'm Tunav.
And this is it. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you.